Now let's look at the big picture. What is a project? A project isn't just a task. It's a temporary endeavor with a clear beginning and an end, designed to create a unique product, service, or result. Now, good examples of a project is organizing a wedding, for example, building a new app for a small business, launching a new market campaign, or renovating a kitchen. Now, the key takeaway from this part of the video is to be able to differentiate a project from its routine operations. A project is temporary and is unique, whilst operations are ongoing and repetitive. Now, this helps people understand why specific management skills are needed for projects. We're now going to move on to the next topic, which is the project lifecycle. This is the journey of a project. Now, we're now going to walk through the 5 key stages of a project lifecycle. The first stage is the initiation. This is the starting line. So like what the problem is, what is the opportunity? This is where you define the project's purpose and goals. The second stage is planning, the roadmap. This is the most crucial phase. You're talking about laying out all the details, what needs to be done, who will do it, what resources are needed, and when will it be finished. The third stage is the execution stage, and this is the action phase. This is where the work actually gets done. You talk about leading the team and getting things rolling. Whilst you're executing, you might have a document called the RAID log, and the RAID log consists of risks, actions, issues, and decisions. Throughout the project lifecycle, you'd have your monitoring control, which is your fourth stage. This is the project's dashboard. So this stage runs in parallel with execution. You'd constantly be checking progress such as documentations for Prince 2, such as, highlight reports, checkpoint reports. You'd have different sort of reports to be able to track progress and manage your projects accordingly. Comparing it to a plan, for example, like a project plan, you'd have people that are owners of tasks. When the deadline of the task will complete for each phase of the project, and making adjustments when needed. This is where the agile approach comes in. The fifth stage of the project lifecycle is the closing stage. This is the finish line. This is where you wrap everything up, get the final approval. You'd have things like your project closure reports, and you also reflect on what worked and what didn't work. And this is where your lessons logs come in, because your lessons logs will help you understand the lessons you've learned throughout your project lifecycle and where you can really improve next time. Now we're going to move on to the project manager's role. These are the people who are the conductors of an orchestra. They're not just a taskmaster, they're the person who ensures that the project stays on track, on time, and on budget, whilst keeping everyone aligned. Now, the 5 main key responsibilities of a project manager is, first of all, planning and organization, creating a project plan. As I previously mentioned, that a project plan is where you can be able to manage the project with the people involved in the project team. For example, you have a phase 1 to 4 approach. For each phases, you have your tasks, the people who own the task. When the task is going to when the task is going to meet the deadline, when is that task going to be completed by? Who is completing that task? Another skill is team leadership, motivating and guiding the team. Often people within teams become less motivated. How do you find ways to motivate your team to continue, try and reach the same goal, which is completing the project on time, on track, within budget, and different types of, aspects to it. Another skill is risk management, identifying and preparing potential problems. This is where your RAID log comes in, your risks, actions, your issues, and your decision log. What risks are going to be identified, how do you manage those risks, put in procedures to mitigate those risks. Another skill to have as a project manager is communication, keeping everyone in the loop. These are like your internal or your external stakeholders, and also your project teams, the people who are also involved in delivering this project. The last skill to have as a project manager is problem solving. Now, these are handling unexpected issues as they arise. And this is where your RAID log comes in. You're able to manage your issues. How do you mitigate those issues from arising again? Who is the owner of those issues? When is those issues going to be dealt with? When are they going to be dealt by? These are the skills and many other skills that a project manager has whilst managing a project. Now, the problem is, right? Knowing these steps is one thing, but actually doing them is another. Now, the real world is risky, and one bad decision can literally lead to a cost of time, money, and even your own reputation, and the reputation of the company you're managing the projects for. Now, the solution to this problem is, we have a software that we've been working on called RealistSim. And RealistSim is a risk-free environment where people, project managers, aspiring project managers, or people that manage projects that struggle in managing projects can practice these very skills. Now, at RealistSim, we have offered currently a simulation of 15 projects in total in different industries such as IT, retail, marketing, finance and insurance, power and electrics. And this is a safety sandbox to be able to make mistakes, learn from experience, learn from consequences, and truly understand the flow of a project without any real, world risks. This directly addresses the pain points of a new project manager who lacks, practical experience. Not just a new project manager, even current project managers who lack certain experiences that need experiences to be able to manage projects in a safety sandbox without impacting real world, cost, real world time, and even your reputation. Now follow the series for some more valuable project management content. If you're ready to learn and apply these skills in a safe, dynamic environment, join the waitlist for the RealistSim in my bio.